Yes. I have got a set of questions for all the panelists, and then they can give their concluding remarks also along with it. The first question, there are two questions for Javed Beg, and it is by Samir Srivastav. He says that society becoming cynical, is it due to the rigging which took place in 1987? And if yes, then is the present political vacuum dangerous? It is by Brigadier Kaul. He wants to know what steps the center has taken so far to de-radicalize the local Sunni Muslims, and what are the results as of now. There is one question for General Ranbir Singh. Is India's do you believe that abrogation of Article 370 and its acceptance by international community has resolved the issue as far as present borders of J&K are concerned? This is by Arvind Saran. There is one question for Mr. Bhan. Can you carve out a plan for the Kashmiri Pandits to go back and settle down there? This question was asked by Brigadier Kaul.
And Dr. Roshan, please add one more question from my side for Mr. Anil Goswami. And that is about the state of corruption. I've been part and parcel of that state, and of course, we are very notorious in terms of a very high corruption index. So in the light of these programs, what mechanisms are needed to be put in place so that all these programs and the money that we are spending, it actually reaches the grassroots level and there is a fair degree of accountability?
We can start with Mr. Anil Goswami and then go to Mr. Ashok Bhan and Javed Beg and finally to Lieutenant General Ranbir Singh. Please, your comments.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me put it this way. The corruption of Jammu and Kashmir has been spoken of at great lengths all over. After the bifurcation of the erstwhile state into two union territories, as I mentioned earlier, the institutions of the Government of India have now been put into place in the union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, which includes the Anti-Corruption Bureau and the laws that are relevant as far as preventing corruption in the rest of the country are concerned. I was listening to the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, and I also was fortunate to listen to the comments of the Honorable Prime Minister of India on this subject. And they were both very, very forthcoming, and they said that there will be zero tolerance for corruption and very strict action will be taken to ensure that the money reaches the ground. The monitoring will be very rigorously done. Now, the monitoring is normally done by various levels of officials, but if you recall, I mentioned something called Back to the Village program. Now, this Back to the Village program is a program that has been launched by the union territories, under which about 5,000 gazetted officers, which is almost all the officers in the state, were sent to the villages to spend time with the people there. When they go there, they are able to get information, glean information, and see for themselves whether things are actually being done on the ground. Let me illustrate my point further. You see, when the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir was making a presentation before the Prime Minister about 2 weeks ago, when the Ayushman Bharat and Jammu and Kashmir Sehat scheme was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister, the Lieutenant Governor made a large number of claims about what had been achieved in the state since the time the union territories had been carved out. And the Prime Minister responded by saying that the Lieutenant Governor was speaking from J&K because it was a kind of webinar like it is being done here. You obviously can't meet in any gatherings anywhere. And he said that the Lieutenant Governor was sitting amongst the people of the state. There were 20,000 people who were connected on the webinar throughout the union territories. And he was speaking and making those claims, which went on, and there was not a single dissenting voice from anywhere, which went on to show that whatever he was saying was actually being done on the ground. So, General Saab, the answer to your question briefly is that so much movement is being proposed by the governments of the Union Territories to various parts of the state by the officers that in case a tall claim is made or a false claim is made or a scheme is not actually executed and claimed to be executed, it is likely to emerge very, very quickly. And I am confident that this will reduce corruption to a very substantial degree. How much it goes down, I cannot say with any guarantee, but I'm sure it will come down and the punishments will also continue to rise. Thank you.
Thank
you. Mr. Ashok Ban? Please unmute.
We have been deliberating on this issue for a long time within the community ranks, and my view always has been that the Kashmiri Pandit population, which is willing to go back, is more than 600,000 people, and 700 people can be segregated into smart cities, which has to be a composite city because we can't live in isolation. And a composite city and a smart city will facilitate and accommodate all the population if it is planned very well. And we have put up these proposals to the government also. And the government was saying, and the state so-called leadership, including the Hurriyat, was saying that we don't want them to come in ghettos and we don't want to create Israel situation in Kashmir. There is a lot of disinformation about our return back. We are the natives, we have the right to go back, and it cannot be dictated by either Hurriyat or by any section of the majority of the community. Majority of the community has always welcomed it, and we are willing to live in composite culture, composite cities to start with. And then we have to do some business, we have to do some jobs, we have to do explore certain opportunities of employment also. That has to be done in a pluralistic and in an inclusive manner. We can't be sitting in isolation, and we can't have any isolated islands for ourselves, because that would not be a living of a community which has a civilizational background of living in association with other communities, because that would be the negating of even the Indian secular concept. In Delhi, in elsewhere in the country, we live along with the other population. Since the majority of other population is Muslims, so therefore we can work out a solution with the government, we can work out with a scheme with the government to live jointly somewhere with, of course, a majority of Kashmiri Pandits, and we can have the smart city concept would be that we can have all the modern amenities there to live with. That is how I perceive it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ban. May I request Javed Beg to please give his comments?
Well, the first question was about 1987 election rigging. That is obviously very unfortunate. This shouldn't have happened because this gave many reasons to our enemy to propagate his proxy to propagate his agenda, to instigate Kashmiris, especially Kashmiri youth, because Kashmiri youth had participated in large numbers in that election. So that was very unfortunate. It shouldn't have happened. I must say, government of the day is very sensitive about these issues because they recently held DDC elections, wherein I lost elections, but it was fair and very transparent. It's a compliment from a common Kashmiri, a voter. We call ourselves kosher. Mr. Ashok Ban ji, BK Sharma ji, we are all kosher. So it's really encouraging that the process has been streamlined. 1987 is really a very dark chapter in the history of modern JNK. Yes, that gave many reasons to those who were already in a process to in a process of creating a lot of problems in Jammu and Kashmir by and large, and in Kashmir especially. So my understanding is that we need to go back to the history. If we have to find answers to historical questions, we need to go back to that history. We need to hold those who did it, who rigged elections in 1987. We need to come clean on that. Government of the day should bring a report card, because Kashmiris are still talking about 1987. A lot of people, they lost their confidence in the electoral process. I have many people with me who participated in 1987. They are, very peaceful people, but they say, we don't believe in this electoral process. We don't believe in this democracy. So we need to go back to the history to correct that historical blot. We need to bring justice. We need to hold those people responsible who did it, who rigged, and they continue to enjoy power. So we have to do this to bring confidence into the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And the other question is about de-radicalization. What did Government of India or central government did? Government of India has been doing a lot of efforts to de-radicalize the situation, but more than kinetic operations and intelligence, institutions, it is civil society wherein we need to invest. I think for last 30 years, we have not invested much in the civil society, because after all, it's civil society which can do wonders. It's not only intelligence institutions or security agencies. It is civil society which has to play its role. And in last 30 years, civil society has not been given a well-defined role in de-radicalizing the youth of Kashmir. I think it's high time that civil society be brought into action. Civil society has to be brought into confidence. We need to invest more in civil society, because security agencies have lost its relevance in civil society. To be very honest with you, if we do any program or a project in terms of de-radicalization through any security agency, very less people take it seriously. Very few people participate into it, especially youth. We have to formulate a strategy to de-radicalize youth, because enemy is investing big time in radicalizing youth. Enemy is doing everything, whatever they could do, to instigate, provoke Kashmiri youth. So it's up to the government of the day how they formulate a strategy to do much better.
Thank you. May I ask General Ranveer Singh to give his comments, please?
Thank you very much. I think the question pertains to that with our government's decision regarding abrogation of Article 370 and 35 Alpha and its acceptance by a large number of countries, whether this will be able to resolve the border issue.
Yes, that's correct.
After we had abrogated the article on August 5th, 2019, there were statements by a few countries, including China, raising a finger. We are trying to infringe, or we're trying to change or alter the status as far as the border issue is concerned. And the official response given by the Indian government was that India does not comment on the internal affairs of other countries, and we would expect a similar action to be done by others, since the issue of abrogation of Article 370 and 35 Alpha has essentially been an internal matter of India. So, to just conclude that whether this would resolve the border issue, the answer is no. because it is an internal matter. It does not affect as far as our borders with our neighboring countries are concerned. We've got our borders in J&K with Pakistan, as also with China, as also with Afghanistan. If we really take our boundary on the India-China issue. So it is not affecting our borders. It is not affecting the issue as far as resolution of borders is concerned. It was brought out very clearly that the abrogation of the article is being essentially done so that we can have proper integration of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir with the rest of the country. It was being done so that we could curb the terrorism and we could promote and usher development in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, as also in Ladakh. So I don't think it would be proper to say that it is going to resolve the boundary issue or the border question. It will have different means which we will have to adopt as far as resolution is concerned. So that is the short answer to the question. I would like to thank the director and my fellow panelists for an excellent expose. It has been a learning experience for me, and I think it was a great subject selected by the USI to be able to stimulate our intellectual thoughts, be able to come up with some viable solutions. My gratitude to all my fellow panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, General Ranbir. May I now request our director to please give the closing remarks.
See, in conclusion, I would say that from this today's webinar, where we have really the practitioners and who know the ground dynamics extremely well and who've been dealing with the subject at the very apex level, I think there is a lot of hope and optimism the way the things are proceeding. There are 2 or 3 issues that we really need to work upon. One is that delivery mechanism. That has to be ensured and enforced. That's extremely important. Second thing is a plausible non-kinetic nationalistic narrative has to be built up, for which, as Javed said, that I think we should involve the opinion makers or from the state of Jammu and Kashmir itself. And there are a large number of people within Jammu and Kashmir and even some very senior military officers like General Ranbir, who command a lot of respect amongst the people because they've been very fair and just the way they have conducted counter-terrorism operations there. Involve these people for a sustained dialogue with this the society which has been indoctrinated or influenced by Pakistan's propaganda. So on one hand, we show the fast track development of whatever the programs are there. And concurrently with that, we have an intra-J&K, intra-civil society dialogue, as also use the iconic figures from the state and from the rest of Jammu and Kashmir, and let there be a sustainable dialogue, because perception shaping is extremely important particularly in Kashmir Valley. There have been certain problems, intra-regional problems. The polarization between Jammu and region had grown over the years. Even within Jammu region, there is a certain degree of polarization which has come. These issues now need to be addressed in a holistic manner. And I'm sure with the passage of time, with the all government and all people's approach, we would see Kashmiri Pandits returning to the valley, and we would see that the state is back again on the path of its very bright past, that it had. And we will see them totally as part and parcel of Indian state in a very constructive and positive win-win paradigm. So with these words, I profusely thank Mr. Goswami, Shri Ashok Bhan, my friend Javed, General Ranbir, who's been always, on our side and been sharing his perspective. And we look forward to some more focused discussions in the times to come. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. Stay safe, and our regards and gratitude.